All right. Hello, the two people that are currently already in here. Tonight, we're going to start on Alice, also known as Static. Let me get my show started. Hey, Effie, how you doing? Oh, doing all right. Getting looked at by a dog who I should have blocked out, but I'm not going to lock out until my parents get home. Hello, Allison. Lacey. Well, it's mom's birthday, you know. Let's see here. Guess I'll open Alice's file. Okay, the character's name is Alice Trigger. She code name is Static, also Alpha Sentinel or Mother Mold. She's from Talos, Arizona. Look that one up, you won't find it. Her species is human prime sentinel. Her mutant powers are electrical production, and her sentinel powers is control. Production and electronic production and control, and she's augmented with sentinel technology, particularly sentinel uh, production of sentinel nanites. Physical description: Alice has As I've said before, the characters change as they go along, as I develop them. Now I've got to go find her head, but the head came off just fine. Uh, but she has light brown hair and soft light skin. Her eyes are almost purple, dark blue due to the cybernetic nature of them. Her body is thin and leafy, with her arms and legs with a slight metallic gleam to them. When in battle mode, her arms have guns, missiles hidden in them, and her legs have rockets and other hidden weapons. Now, I'll be back in a second, right after I find where the head went. Did it fly all the way out through? No, there it is. Okay. Now, I'm actually going to have her hair be a bit longer. I'm going to be using twist ties to put some interest in her. Alice's personality is often distant and distracted. Autistic seems to be the right way to say it. Though she has to do more with it has to do more with the fact of the computer in her brain that is always processing and can be very distracting. She was slightly autistic before the Sentinel tech was added. And actually, she wasn't before the Sentinel tech, so it's definitely the computer in her brain. When she is comfortable, there isn't too much information being processed through in the computer. She is joyful and bubbly. Unlike most, making her mad will likely get you hurt and may even get you killed. Now, here comes the sad part. Do we really, really want the depressing story of Alice tonight? Or do we want something happier? Okay. Alice has had a very tragic life. She was born a mutant in the city of Talos, Arizona. This city was more or less a secret town that was a mutant reservation. Mutants could live there without having to worry about hate from non-human mutants that was common in other places all over the world. Everyone in the town was mutant, except for a few forward-thinking humans. The bulk having visible mutations. State and federal government allowed the city to stay safe and secret from hate groups. When she was trained, 10, they were betrayed by the government, and the town was wiped out by Operation Zero Tolerance. They struck just after sunset, hard and fast. Several full-size Sentinels and around 100 of the man-sized Prime Sentinels, and one man who looked like a man but was as much a Sentinel as the rest, Bastion. The attack started fast, and it took them off guard. Within minutes, the town's police force was decimated, and that left everyone to defend themselves. They put up a hell of a fight, too. Though, in the end, they lost. The mutants of the town took down 4 full-size Sentinels and a third of the Prime Sentinels. But in the end, most of the adults of the town were killed, and survivors were rounded up and taken to camps. In the battle, Alice watched her parents and older brother fight to protect her and died fighting. Alice was traumatized and had gone into a catatonic state, didn't resist when she was picked up by one of the attackers, Bastion himself. Alice was taken to Bastion's home base, unlike the others who'd survived the attack, and ended up in the camps. At first, it seemed like he had taken a liking to her. This was true, but he also saw her as the perfect test platform for new Sentinel technology. To him, she was little more than a toy to be played with until he found one he liked better. The next year and a half, she was torture for Alice as Bastion continued to test new technologies on her. Her limbs were amputated, replaced by bionic replacements, which were also removed and replaced by biopneumatic limbs that were removed and replaced by organic metal skeleton arms and legs. And she was implanted with the Sentinel nanites, which coated the skeleton arms and legs with human-looking biosynthetic metal flesh, which matched her own skin tone and made her look like she did before the tests began, but could coat her entire body with armor if the need was there. It also operated on her brain and added a control box, removed her eyes, which were rebuilt by the nanites with the same synthetic materials as her limb flesh. By the end of the first year, Bastion had designated her Alpha Sentinel and began to reprogram her in hopes of making her into a human mother mold who would give birth to Sentinel human hybrids like him. Bastion's plans collapsed halfway through the second year, not long after Alice's birthday, when her powers kicked in. It started when her body shorted out the equipment that was keeping her in a semi-comatose state. As she broke free, she began to receive orders from the Sentinel Master Control System. She instinctively created an electromagnetic field around her that kept the computer from taking over. Without the computer's influence, she was able to control the nanites, though she didn't know what they were capable of. At first thing was that she didn't want to be naked, and the nanites covered her in armor. Then she wanted a way out, and her arms became cannons, which she used to blow a hole in the wall. When she approached the hole she made in the wall, she realized she would have a hard time making it out in that way unless she could fly, which prompted rockets to form on her ankles, then fire up, pushing her off the ground. With alarms blaring, fear of being recaptured nagging at her in the back of her mind, she jumped out of the hole, and the nanite showed her how to fly. Though she had made it out of the facility, she had no clue where she was or where she was going, but she just wanted to get away. A heads-up display appeared in her eyes, and she could see she was heading east. And though they couldn't link to the satellite link, they were able to produce a map in their programming that they could use. Alice was thankful for that, but still wasn't warming up to him. She thought though she had made it out of the facility, she had no clue where she was going, but she wanted to get away. The heads-up display in her eyes could also say she was heading east. Yeah, we read that already. Stop that. Unfortunately, 3 full-size sentinels were dispatched to bring her back, and she realized how badass she was when she started to fire. When they started to fire on her, she didn't have too much trouble. Well, that sucks. She didn't have too much trouble taking down the first one with a single shot from her right arm cannon, but the other 2 were considerably harder, being forced to turn to aim with both her left and right arms to hit the second. Her luck ran out on the third, since the third had taken evasive action and shot her leg, damaging the rocket, causing her to crash hard into the ground. Her leg was severely damaged. Her shoulder was not most likely broken. She wasn't worried about the damage being permanent because she could feel the nanites already fixing the broken bones. But she also saw the sentinel land a few hundred feet away. She tried to activate her cannons, but found that she couldn't due to damage. She realized her escape had failed, closed her eyes, ready to be taken back to her tortured life, when suddenly she heard the sentinel order someone to stand down. Alice slowly opened her eyes and saw a girl around her age standing between her and the sentinel with a trumpet. In total defiance. As the sentinel approached, the girl lifted the horn to her mouth and blew. For a few seconds, she could hear the horn, but then went strangely quiet, and the sentinel just flew to pieces. Alice hadn't seen anything like that since she had been kidnapped. The girl's name was Abby, and she wasn't going to let some big robot hurt anyone, let alone a girl her age, and decided to act. Shortly thereafter, the girl's father showed up, and Abby told her dad what had happened, and then the MPs showed up, and though they could turn a blind eye to Abby's involvement, they couldn't just let Alice go, so they had to take her into custody. And she'd spent the next week in a cell. Wasn't all that bad, since the guards saw her as a cute little girl and made sure she was comfortable and allowed Abby to come and visit her. Wasn't long before she was released into the custody of Abby's father due to the fact that Bastion was defeated and Operation Zero Tolerance was told that they could no longer operate in the United States. Though the Force family knew that they would have a long road ahead of them, this poor girl ahead helping this poor girl with her emotional damage, but took her in anyways, and she and Abby would share a room. Her friendship with Abby itself was more therapeutic than almost anything the psychiatrists could do. Even though this was the case, she still had a lot more help healing than anyone expected. Hold on a second. I'm going to go close the door completely. Yeah, they want food now. Even though her and many other people had been augmented by Operation Zero Tolerance, by the operations, they were living people, and there were were living people. There were companies that supplied the technologies used in the augmentation who wanted either the people or the technologies back. This led to court cases that brought in Jennifer Walters, Matt Murdock, and Froggy Nelson, all defending the people who couldn't help what they were being used they were being used and experimented on. In the end, the cases were won and the technologies were left on the people who had them, and everyone was free. Once the court case was over with, both her body and mind began to heal, and to the surprise of the family, there was help coming from some of the top heroes in the world. First, the X-Men took interest, but lacked the funding to be able to help much with Alice and the Force family. Also, there was fear that if she was allowed to join Generation X, she would become a danger to them later. It was at this time that Alice and Abby met Hank McCoy and somehow became friends with recent X-Men recruit Marrow, who would have a large part to play in their future later. Through Hank, they were introduced to the man who would become Alice's benefactor and friend of the family, Tony Stark, Iron Man. Tony would take a liking to the entire family, though his main interest was in Alice. He still struck up a friendship with Abby's father, and even built him a stealth armor suit, which much like his own. The armor would later be handed down to Abby's oldest brother, who had followed his father into the military. After several examinations and some interesting conversations, Tony decided that he didn't just want to study Alice, he wanted her to work for him. Knowing the computer in her brain expanded her mutant mind, and her expanded mutant mind made her very intelligent, and she showed an understanding of mechanics and robotics even Tony didn't quite get. Tony helped her get accepted into MIT while she was still going through general education, i.e. high school, and made sure she was able to attend classes without having to go to campus. Alice and Abby graduated from high school in the same class and moved to New York, where Alice took a job at New York Stark Tech Labs, where she helped develop nanotech, including Stark Tech nanites. She continued her schooling and eventually getting doctorate in several sciences and engineering fields. And she pretty much ignored the world outside Stark Tech and home until the superhero Civil War, after which she joined Abby in returning to Iowa and joining the initiative uh, team there. Abby and her were put on the same team, where they also met the magic user Marcus Anna, who soon became Abby's partner in life and one of the few people Alice called friend. After the fall of Norman Osborn during the siege of Asgard, she returned to Stark Tech and went back to the life she had before the dark times. Wasn't long after that she felt the pull of Bastion and locked herself in a room with her powers active so she could not be forced to work for him again. This is when she began a special project involving Stark nanites. She worked just as hard on her other projects, developing new technologies to help with medical technologies, which led to her being involved in a group to find the cure for the mpox after the release of the Terrigen Mist above Earth nearly wiped out the entire mutant population of the planet. She was able to come up with a treatment that saved both her and Abby, but it came too late to save Abby's mother and siblings. Alice was hit hard by their deaths and had once again lost a family, but at least this time it wasn't complete loss of all of them. It still hit her hard, and she locked herself away to work on her personal projects. When Krakoa was founded and Charles and Xavier put out the call to all mutants to join them on the island, both Alice and Abby were happy with their lives and decided not to go to Krakoa, but soon found out that Abby's family had been brought back to life. Alice's family and hometown had also been brought back from the dead and had chosen to return to Talos and rebuild the city. It was a happy time that was overshadowed by the return of Bastion. Alice once again felt the pull as soon as Bastion got his new Nimrod body, but she knew that if she was going to avoid his designs for her this time, she would have to act fast. She went to her lab, got the syringe that held the special Stark nanites that she had specifically programmed for this purpose, and had one of her lab techs help her inoculate herself with them. Though it was painful and she lost consciousness as the computer was shut down and reprogramming began. When Alice woke. Sorry, Allison. When Alice awoke, she no longer felt the pull of Bastion, and now knew she had full control over her over the nano sentinels that make up her arms and legs. She duplicated the Stark nanites as quickly as she could and had them distributed to as many Prime Sentinels as she could before they could be activated. She succeeded in getting 300 out of 500 known Prime Sentinels inoculated before they were activated, but that didn't stop Bastion and later Orcus from amassing large groups of Prime Sentinels. But people who hadn't been activated never would be, and would own their own bodies. Since the fall of Krakoa, Alice has continued working at Stark Tech and still lives with Abby in New York City. Even though Abby and Marcus' relationship has continued, he is very much part of her life. She has become even more active in fighting oppression and has been known to give communication tech to the Morlocks and other mutant groups to help mutants find jobs in more accepting groups and businesses. Her help is the main reason that Abby has been able to try to form a band. Okay, that's her whole thing. So, any statements about it? Where the hell is my other toolbox? There it is. Way the fuck over there. Yeah, but that's actually a very common thing with this group. You know that. Okay. Well, surprisingly, I do it more often than you. Quite a bit more often than you. But for the most part, usually my happiness is pure insanity. So, some of them, yes. Just not the best ones. I wonder what. Yeah, I know I'm live streaming. Shut up. Don't have to tell me I'm live streaming. And you're acting like insanity is not a mental problem. Like I said, my happiness is usually insanity. So as I was telling Allison, uh, okay, Psycho Fairy, uh, yeah, we'll get into that later. But I was telling Allison earlier that I've decided that I probably should. I'm probably going to end up making people hate me because I realized if I'm going to be doing characters that nobody is going to touch with a 10-foot pole, I'm going to have to hit woke Marvel, particularly the New Warriors. And probably the characters. Okay, well, there's a couple of characters that were basically the end of woke Marvel that caused them to decide it was time to start taking comics seriously again. And their names were Snowflake and Safe Place. And I'm sitting here thinking, you know, somebody should make figures of uh of those two. And knowing how much those characters are disliked by most comic fans, I'm asking for trouble if I do that. But I am seriously thinking I should. Yeah, right. I really wish this stuff didn't dry over a 24-hour period. I do, but that's beside the point. I mean, I am probably one of the only people you will meet that likes to piss off both sides. We don't talk about that. Although Warhammer does suck. Covered. This is her human body. This will be her robotic body. And I don't... Oh, there. And be her helmeted head. Right now, the robotic body is in 2 pieces because I will be painting it, and I needed it in pieces so I could prepare it. Yes, this will only be her human body until I find one that is similar that isn't going to cost me an arm and a leg to replace, because I want to keep my Jessica Jones in one piece. Things that we talk about that I do not want to talk about on here. If I get all political on here, I'm definitely going to lose people. I'm never going to get more than you two and whoever the watchers are. Of course, probably by next week, I will be switched over to Twitch. I'll probably do a simulcast if you have a problem with that, Effie. But Twitch is all about making money doing streams. So, and YouTube is not. Yeah, I know that, but that doesn't change the fact that I'm not going to be talking about some of my more controversial stuff, okay? It's going to be lots of people realize my leanings as we go along. So, let's hope this braid works. Yeah. Why? Does it not look like that's what I'm doing? Well, I'm trying to do her hair as a braid, which is not easy. And yeah, I need to get better about it. Still getting used to the new table. All right, Effie. I was gonna cut it short tonight anyway.
Hey, dude, what's the most annoying thing about mobile games? Easy, it's all the ads in the videos. Tell me about it. I know, everybody's sick of ads in games. It's like they're Little Kingdom. Wait, there's a game with no ads? Yeah, Little Kingdom. It just came out. It's a free puzzle game with zero ads. Oh my gosh, I love puzzle games. And this one is so cool because you just solve puzzles and build very kingdom. And it doesn't even verify. Okay, that is really cool. Just download Little Kingdom and start playing now. Trust me, you won't regret it. Definitely will. Thanks. They decided to go with it. A third edition Codex was light more and instead focused more on action five. The fifth edition went in the exact opposite direction. Every single page was bursting with concrete information about the Empires' history, personality, different units, and everything else you could think. Focus was now put primarily on the Empires themselves, where the Catan had their role dramatically reduced. From my perspective, this ultimately just makes sense. Last time I checked, this was Codex Necrons, not Codex Catan. Pretty much everything that was missing in the first book is now being laid out for us. We learned all about the Necron worlds, including how they operate, how many there potentially are, and how they're maintained. We learned about how the Necrons were able to achieve faster travel within the warp via the Golden Fleet, a concept that allowed them to temporarily punch a hole in the red line. The Necrons were no longer needed. slaves that had complex societies and systems of hierarchy. The book taught us about their command structures, including all of the defined units and their roles within the culture. We learned about the cryptids and their different technical magics they wielded. We learned about the emissaries, the generals of the army. We learned about overlords, the lords, and high kings of the different ethnic dynasties that were their allies. In addition to the networks themselves now having actual character and personality, these dynasties and actual sub-factions with Necrons were probably the biggest and most important change introduced into the story. The Necrons weren't doing all work in one of them. Every dynasty had its own aesthetics, personality, history, cultures, and methods of waging war. There's now actually been more reason why the Necrons
That's why I hate doing braids with 4 pieces.
Or maybe you want your ancient dynasty to be gaudy as with more wealth, treasure, and powerful technology than any other. Not to mention, then check out the Nile dynasty. Or maybe if you want to go a step beyond the earned previous incarnation, maybe you want to have the Green Darkness climb all the way up to 11. Well, now you have the Robot dynasty. There's sex, witchery, madness, forbidden blood rituals, and more daylight. Not only did this book introduce us to a ton of new units and networks, each with a dedicated page for the world, but it also gave us a bunch of Necron-themed characters. To build on this, it introduced a more concrete reason why some Necrons retain their personalities and others don't know. We were told that the process used to determine who the Necrons in the first place was not just their ability to talk. It was a scientific process known as biotransference. When their bodies were being constructed, resources were not unlimited. Thus, the best percentages were reserved for the ruling class. Mid-tier engineers went to the military class, and whatever was left over was used to construct bodies for the common man. The higher grade the components were, the more likely they would retain their personality when they wake up. The unnecessary degradation that occurred due to factors of time and circumstance beyond their control. With the peasants in particular, the pumps used in their mechanical plants were average to preserve a spectrum of awareness that served to torment the individual with memories of past they once knew. Now, robbed of joy and experience, death would have certainly been inevitable, but they no longer had the wit to realize it. Although some Necron fans grumbled about how they preferred their spooky fonts to be silent, or that they didn't like the Egyptian names, even though technically speaking that existed back in the White Dwarfs, most didn't particularly have an issue with them being conscious. They also didn't really seem to mind it with their new units. The more controversial change was what Games Workshop decided to do with time and how they retcon the events of the war in heaven. So let's get into every little change. Now, here is the third edition that kind of skimmed over the history, the history, and instead gave us a play-by-play of the war in heaven itself. Focus now has its pieces of history and the events surrounding the transfers. This is mostly done in order to incorporate the dynasties themselves, as well as some key characters. This is able to open the war between the Necrons and the Good Ones started solely because the Necron team were jealous of the Old Ones' brutality. This remains largely true, but a lot more nuances than that. In both versions, the Necron team are a species that were born in a railroad stall, something that had a direct impact on their evolution and resulted in them being short-lived and sick to people. Attempting to find souls somewhere else was spread out to many other planets, but no matter who did or how powerful the technology became, the Necron team stopped influence on their DNA. In the first book, it tells us that they conquered other worlds without giving any real specifics on how big the empire was. But in this new book, it states they quote, spread ever further into the much of the galaxy in answer to their rule. The big change with the Old Ones' introduction is that the Necrons hate them, not because they're jealous, but because they asked them for help. They were not just envious of brutality, they sought in secrets to save their people, a request that the Old Ones ignored. And they didn't just declare war on them, ruling by hope. A lot of time passes between them to counter and win that action first. After being denied by the Old Ones, the
How's that look, Allison? don't know. I might get the other half since she's kind of split down the middle with the color of her hair, which is funny.
worded out caution in the prophecy. And year after first contact, the trial formally agreed to alliance unless new species. The recombination
Yeah. I wanted to keep the light brown hair that was described in the thing, but I also wanted to give her a dye job on that. So she splits her hair down the middle. Plus, I thought it looked cool.
fairness, there wasn't really much to them. Still, there are some working theories that claim that the edition really capitalized, and that Games Workshop ultimately made them less crazy. But is this actually true? As somebody who likes franchises, deep treasure troves of lore that you can trust in, I think that big edition headlines were an undeniable improvement in just about every single way. Whether or not that's Grimdark, though, that's a little bit harder to gauge. So let's get into it. Honestly, the overall lessening of the Grimdark within Warhammer 40k is the kind of that probably deserves video, so let me know if you'd like something like that made by me in the future. In the meantime, we'll keep it focused on just the macros. Whether or not there actually was Grimdark as a faction now really depends on the individual's perspective of what it means to be Grimdark. Although we call Grimdark its own genre, it's really more of a vibe and atmosphere than an actually well-defined structure. Adventure, fantasy, science fiction, and horror are all genres that you can each make different by filtering them with some key elements. So let's talk about what Grimdark actually is. Grimdark stories tend to emphasize bleak, brutal, and morally ambiguous themes that are often set in dystopian or post-apocalyptic worlds. Whatever form the setting takes, it is designed to be harsh, cruel, and unforgiving. These worlds face challenges within them that seek to crush them. Happy endings are almost non-existent, and any victories that occur at great cost, often being temporary at best. Violence in these stories is commonplace and often used as a tool to highlight just how harsh the world is. When ethical differences story, it often involves choosing the lesser evil with no true good outcome. Entropy is an ever-changing concept, and any character's attempt to end or fix this broken world often fail or lead to unintended consequences. When it comes to Grimdark characters, the line between hero and villain is traditionally blurred. These characters are complex and deeply flawed, across traits of optimism and heroism, they can be repeatedly supported and accomplished, while selfish and overtimes are rewarded. And that reward traditionally is not greater than survival. Individuals in positions of power in a Grimdark story are usually portrayed as corrupt, oppressive, or corrupt. Additionally, and to me this is important to the background specifically, Grimdark stories are often tragic in nature. They are bleak, hopeless, and permeated by persistent feelings of ultimate futility, existential dread, despair, cynicism, and cosmic indifference. So, with all that in mind, we can clearly see in the third edition version of the backgrounds were undeniably Grimdark. They embody the horror of a soulless, unstoppable, and unknowable force, slaves, despicable, moral personality, and even organic forms, driven by the demands of incomprehensible cosmic entities, gods who desire nothing more than the consumption of all life. Now, this combination definitely presented them as a vision of utter futility for all organic species that would attempt to fight them. They were an enemy that they couldn't easily ignore or escape. And although they were definitely drifting Grimdark lives, there's unfortunately a balancing act that needs to be shown that I think the original book kind of failed to do. They nailed the Grimdark for sure, but forgot to make them an actual faction. As they were just kind of tangible personifications of the inevitable doom of the universe. Fifth edition comparison to unlock that human they suddenly weren't this unknowable cosmic horror but had motivations that were understandable, believable, and in some instances pitiable. This combined with the fact that we suddenly knew a whole lot more about them made them a lot less scary. But scary does not necessarily equal Grimdark. You can have a Grimdark story that has no horror at all. It's just bleak and grisly. So I would argue that both versions are equally Grimdark, they just focus on different Grimdark elements. Whereas the third edition headlines were an apocalyptic movie of people, their fifth edition incarnation was more complex, more ambiguous, and rooted in themes of hubris, existential despair, and eternal regret. Women was killed because they were told to do so. Now, after overlords absolutely poured into the water, scouring the entire world, and killing untold millions as they seek living to be. Whereas before, they didn't have the wants of human beings at all. Now, they viewed them as inflamed, loathing that needed to be eradicated. Many of them pursued callous and distorted experiments of the species in order to advance their own agendas. Even the characters that seem at first like they lead objectively less Grimdark are still Grimdark. I know there's a lot of news about Trazyn that kind of turned into character, and don't get me wrong, I love this portrayal of him, but his obsession with collecting and preserving the galaxy's history is still rooted in some pretty grimdark tropes. First, he kidnaps and enslaves entire population. The prime motivator for doing what he does is that the galaxy is on its way out. Everything will end. Everything will be destroyed. Everyone will die. It's ironic because we throw around Kazan names all the time, see him as this goofy kleptomaniac, but then we remember that the reason he's doing this is unbelievably goofy. That the galaxy cannot be saved. And it could. Maybe it should. A Necron character that's a little less morally ambiguous and definitely seems less grimdark at most is this Sandra. And he seems kind of like a good guy. I mean, a good guy in the sense that he's still a brutal conflict, but he demands that any who fight under his banners must conduct themselves with honor and chivalry, that their enemies must be shown the respect they deserve. He refuses to use underhanded methods and wounds, so no rates or death knells. And when prisoners are captured by him, he ensures that they're treated with dignity. And it's around that time we find out that the only reason he does all of this is because he's losing his mind. The circuitry in his brain dangerously beyond repair, and he still believes he's back in the first rules of succession. All of his opponents, be they humans, orcs, or even other Necrons, refer to him as his fellow flesh and blood kinsmen of the Necron tier dynasties still fighting for their independence. The dude is trapped in a moment of time that passed more than 60 years ago, and is incapable of understanding the horror that he and his people are becoming, let alone what has happened to the galaxy. It gets even worse when you realize that the ruling council absolutely hates him and sees him unfit for duty, and they're actively conspiring to remove him. Even this little glimmer of surface level hope of the Necrons exists only to be crushed by the grimdark future. And then there's the Faustian bargain made with the Necron and the Mercenaries. In the previous generation, they were no longer conscious after. Both versions aren't really alive, but I think you understand what I mean when I say the third edition Necrons die in the name of transplants. Their corpses were just being puppeted around by the guitar afterwards. And the new war, with the exception of baseline warriors and at least one named character, the Necrons are fully aware of the horror of their existence. They may not be enslaved to the Star Gods anymore, but they're still slaves to their soulless, undying form. The Necrons once controlled the galaxy. Planet is dead, but the galaxy that they lead died 60 million years ago. The new one they find themselves in is broken beyond repair, both figuratively and quite literally, as only the Great Rift has torn it in half. They are forced to endure endless cycles of war and decay, with no hope of escape. They can't even look forward to death because they no longer have soul, and thus no chance of a peaceful afterlife. And the bid to save these people is now again condemned them to an eternity of conflict and slaughter. The Necrons are eventually doomed by their own nature and circumstances, through their tragic backstory, fragmented identities, futile ambition, and ceaseless infighting. There's no real hope of anything past all this. It honestly boggles my mind that somebody can hear all that and somehow claim they're not grimdark anymore. It's like, dude, what else do you want? Do you agree? Did fifth edition make the Necrons less scary? Yes, absolutely it did. But did it make them less grimdark? No, not at all. Both versions are still grimdark, but just grimdark in different ways. But what do you think of all this? Do you agree or disagree with any of the point I did in this video? Do you like the new direction the Necrons have gone in, or do you wish Games Workshop left them the way they were back in third edition? If you were to change anything about the Necrons, what would it be? And what kind of story developments do you think would be really interesting? Personally, I'm hoping we get a novel that develops the relationship between Thanos and the Stormlord and Sergeant King, as all of the lore kind of indicates that they both hate each other and maybe cause an Necron civil war. In my personal opinion, the book basically writes itself. Hopefully it's something that's in the pipeline of my library, but we'll see what happens. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, we're on the road to 1 million subscribers, so support that subscribe. It's free, you feel a whole lot better out there. Anyways, as always, let me know your thoughts, questions, comments, and thoughts, and I'm please put your videos down in the comment section below. Big thanks to everyone who supports all the work that I do, and I will catch you all in the next one. Meet Daddy Comfy Cozy's Southern Soft Cream, taking you from cozy to cozy. Just make one set of the tiny ones and one's underneath. Sure. So now what? Gotta put the whole bag in. Okay. Yes. That's how you work it, Jimmy. Yeah. What we're going to do is define endless conflict where each faction fights to and sees the galaxy for itself. Now, unfortunately, we found this franchise is one where no individual faction can ever truly win everything. If it did, the whole thing would be over, and Jimmy walks out with out of each other. And it's not going to let that happen anytime soon. But what if the impossible actually did happen? What if one of the major factions actually achieved win? And I'm not talking about these things that they do have to do today. I mean, they won with Warhammer 40K. All of their enemies were wiped out, and they finally managed to plant themselves as the galaxy's supreme overlords. Well, in this video, we're going to be breaking down what the galaxy looked like if each faction managed to control this. And just so you're aware, this video is going to be getting into some wildly speculative territory. Now that we're from our hats, and everything with a grain of salt. We're going to be talking about what would happen if the Necrons and how that would be different depending upon who's in charge. Will emotes transform, and spoiler warning, only one of their paths ends in happy ending. We're going to be talking about what life would be like for mankind as part of the town empire, and what would happen if chaos managed to urge the war and the we're even going to talk about how mankind their duty to lead the species to ascend into something more unrecognizable, and also how to thrive. We're going to be talking about all that and a whole lot more in this video. But before we dive headfirst into the real world, I'm a huge fan of classic fantasy, and it's probably one of the main reasons why I like the case of the theory. I love seeing all of these fantasy solutions. Imagine a great future. You're looking at the dwarves, elves, beasts, or even a pet. This is I think this is also a video that's not all of them in statements, and you're going to want to hear me out. As the developers have partnered with me on this video to provide all of you with some amazing in-game gifts for free. This game has amazing champions, intense PvE, content, upgrade systems, AAA graphics, and an exclusive content. That's right, I'm talking about Raid Shadow Legends. The big news this week is that Raid Shadow Legends is partnering with users of products and experiences and talent.
So, what do you think?
Running November 25th into December. Everybody can unlock skills for free, as well as a ton of other information before return, simply by logging into Raid for 14 days between November 25th and January. There are not skeleton updates with extra bonus rewards for the next 7 days. Players can also complete the champion pass and also get the legendary champion keys. If you ever started playing Raid, then what are you waiting for? Click on the link in the description or scan the QR code.
I might cut the hair shorter. What do you think? Allison? You're the only one. What do you think? Should I cut it shorter? Feels to me like her hair should be shorter. All right, let's see how it looks on the other body. Yeah, that looks pretty good. It'll look even better when the body's done. All right. Well, I'm going to call it quits for tonight. I will call you in a little bit. And that was interesting. All right. Here we go. Talk to you in a bit, Allison. Bye, everyone else.